also focus on the how hard it was for you to tell people who had invested a lot in you.
Sure. So I love listening to everyone's stories, by the way, because mine is also so different. I realize I'm the only one who's still practicing, but it's still a big change from and I was also at a law firm for almost 9 years. So it's, at that point, you're kind of so ingrained in it, I think, that it's hard to start thinking outside of that mindset. So it was hard just to get out of the law firm mindset, even though the jump was not as big or as risky as the ones that everyone here did. But I think maybe about, and you had something that resonated also, is that I think for the first 3 or 4 years that I was there, maybe, I just kind of put my head down and said, I don't really know what I want to do, but I know that I can do this for now. So let me just do as good of a job at this as I can do, and then I'll figure it out from there. And then around 4 years, I thought, maybe I should just interview somewhere, because I've never interviewed as a person outside of college, other than, OCI or whatever you do. So let me just see if my skills are marketable. I went and interviewed at some other law firms, had an offer, and realized that they're all exactly the same, so why am I going to start again somewhere else? And then realized, okay, now maybe I'll try and dip my toe in the in-house, opportunity. And maybe around my 6th year, I interviewed at a real estate developer that's probably now the worst reputation real estate developer in the country, but got an offer that I think now intelligently turned down. But it was just good to know that you have some options, and so it kind of gives you some confidence going into whatever you're doing, that maybe you're on the right path, even if you don't know what that path is. So I said, and I'm here, I'm working on X, Y, and Z real estate deal. Let me see it. It'll take another 6 months. Let me reevaluate in 6 months, right? And then around month 5, a new one comes in, and you're invested in that, and all of a sudden you're leading that deal. And for me, I worked in real estate. I actually really like real estate. I realized I'm a self-admitted now deal junkie. So when something cool is happening in New York City, I actually get very into it. And so that is a good thing and also a bad thing, because it means you kind of lose perspective of everything else that should be happening in your life during that time. So I got to close some really cool deals, but I was missing out on really thinking about the bigger picture and thinking about everything else that I was doing. So it was maybe right around the time that Elena came to Kramer, and I kind of had this opportunity to think more about what the next step was for me. I realized that I spent all this time and all of these crazy hours and weekends and my life, at this firm. I have a mentor, or a few mentors and partners. I was on the associates committee. I was good friends with a lot of the people in my group and in the other groups. And I was so ingrained, and the next obvious step is to want to be a partner, right? That's what you should do. And I had never done anything else. I had never experienced anything else, and realized I was about to commit myself, both financially and emotionally, to this firm for a longer period of time without ever having experienced anything outside of it. So I had an offer from another firm that had come to me, and again, just not interested if I have a good situation where I am. And I felt very connected and very tied to my mentors at the firm that I know had invested a lot of time and kind of, and put a lot of confidence and faith in me. And that, just because of who I am as a person, I think made it hard for me to even think about leaving, even though I wanted to. So, and I think talking it through, it made me realize that you can't dedicate yourself, even though you feel indebted to people, you have to do what's best for yourself, and that was a harder step for me. So that to me was what I had to get over, in terms of getting over the hump of really thinking about leaving and doing something else. I answered a call from a recruiter about a job for a fund in San Francisco, and never thought about moving to San Francisco, but why not? So I went into his office and met him, and he was like, you know what? The people at WeWork are looking for someone. There's no job description. They don't really know what they want. They know they want a person with a real estate lawyer background. Why don't you just go meet them? And I will say I'm so happy this is at a WeWork. I actually had nothing to do with that. It's a wonderful coincidence. But basically, and this used to be WeWork's headquarters before I started, so I'm kind of happy that I got to see it before I moved to Chelsea. But when I went in to go meet my now boss and the now general counsel, I walked into a room that, think of it like this, but about 3 times the size, and full of people buzzing about and drinking coffee and doing things that look important and fun. And I was just blown away by that. I'm like, how do people do this? This is how people work every day? I go into an office with great carpeting and close my door, and like sometimes people come and say hi and like talk about something that they did over the weekend, and like that's the extent of it. And so I just kind of felt an energy and kind of excitement that I hadn't felt before, and it, at least when it, when it comes to like what I could possibly want to do. And it also happens to coincide with they are doing hundreds of deals all over the country, so that's like exactly what I like doing. So I spoke to, I had a meeting with the, my now boss. He was kind of amazing, he's an amazing person, just kind of blew me away. I met the general counsel at the time, and before I met the general counsel, I had an interview scheduled to meet the general counsel. They called me, pushed that back 2 weeks because of her schedule. Then they called me 2 weeks later and said, we're just not hiring for this position anymore, I'm sorry. So I was like, you know what, that's fine. Meanwhile, I had started talking to Amazon, and I was about to fly to Seattle in a week to go interview out there. And they called me back 2 days after that initial call where they said that they didn't want that position, and they were like, actually we do, and we want you to come meet the general counsel tomorrow. So I went in, met the general counsel, met like the HR team. The next day I go to the airport to fly to Seattle, and they called me and they're like, here's your offer, we want you to come work for us, you have 6 days to decide. I was like, 2 days ago you weren't hiring for this position. Now I have a week, and like now I know that it's 100% indicative of the way that WeWork works, and that's just how fast-growing companies work, which is fine and what makes it fun. So I went out to Seattle, met the people at Amazon, had an opportunity to move out there to work at Amazon, and ultimately thought, as an amazing of a company as that is, we've all probably read the stories about the culture at Amazon. You don't really know what to believe what you hear. WeWork was probably a little bit riskier. It was still like huge growth phase. They were super busy. They couldn't even give me a job description for what I was going to do, other than I was going to do stuff and like deals. And I was like, I like the people. Let's go. Let's do it, and let's take a chance. And the fact that was able to like trump my kind of the feeling that I had towards the people at my firm was an indication to me that this was like the right move to make. So when I finally realized and just like came to before I even accepted and I decided I was going to do it, I like all of a sudden kind of froze. I like didn't know what to do at work. I like couldn't eat, I couldn't sleep, just because I was nervous about like telling them that I was leaving. And so finally, and I think I cried when Elena and I met, and I told her that I was doing it. And ultimately, when I went into like the head of my firm's office to give notice, and I cried while I was talking. He cried. It was like a whole like shared experience. And now we still talk, and I still keep in touch with everyone at the firm. But I really thought that he was like going to hate me, and he was going to say, "How could you do this to me after I trusted you with X, Y, and Z?" And that is not at all what happened. And when I had my exit interview, I did it with all of the partners and the HR people all together, so they could all talk about like what they could have done to make my experience better and make me want to stay. And what I basically said, like, you can't. There's probably nothing they could have done, because there's nothing that a firm could offer that this opportunity could have offered. And I think that was maybe upsetting to them, but it's just true of all firms, right? Like, there's only a firm can offer you a great salary and some maybe really great opportunities and really great, clients if that's the kind of experience you want, but they can't offer you stuff that like on the other side that can be offered. So anyway, now I've been at WeWork for about 2.5 years. Every day is a new